Sure.
Okay, Rocky.
All right.
Like at the end.
Good afternoon. Welcome. Athens-Clarke County Board of Elections, December regular meeting. Bear with me as I find my agenda here. All right. Good. Turn that to it. The date is December 10th and someone's calling me. All right. Sorry. The first item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Chair entertains a motion to adopt the agenda.
I so moved.
A second.
Motion by Ms. Willis, second by Mr. Kadir. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Cool. Agenda is adopted. The next item on the agenda are the approval of minutes. In your packet, you will find minutes from October 22nd, which was a special meeting, October 29th, which was a special meeting, November 8th was a special meeting, and November 8th as well. There were two different times, 3 o'clock and 5:30, two different meetings on the same day. So board members, take a moment to review, and then we can either approve them as batch, or we can break them apart one by one. If there are any changes. The floor is open for whoever wants to make a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from the October 22nd special meeting, October 29th special meeting, November 8th, 3 p.m. special meeting, and November 8th, 5:30 p.m. special meeting.
I second.
Is recognized, motion by Mr. Shirley, second by Ms. Till. All those in favor of approving the 4 minutes presented, the 4 sets of minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is public comment. And it's like Ms. Long would like to make a comment. Okay, we have 2 folks signed up for public comment. The first is Mr. Tim Penning. 1 second to grab my timer here. Then you'll have 3 minutes. Let me know when you're ready. You
I
can
don't know
stand at the
how I
podium, you can stand here, you can
Talking
sit,
back of heads or.
whatever you want to do.
faces. Okay, I'll go up there. My 3 minutes start yet? No? Okay. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm a poll worker here in Athens-Clarke County. I worked the advanced voting as well as the election. My question is threefold. As you know, advanced voting doesn't require that you go to your precinct to vote. You can vote anywhere. But on general election day, you have to go where your precinct is. I think we do a disservice to voters by making them go to their precinct on election day. What I would like to understand is why we have the difference. A 3-part question. Why do we have the difference? What does this Board of Elections think about it? And if you agree with my viewpoint, what can we do to change whatever needs to be changed in order to affect that? You can go anywhere to vote. The numbers don't support on election day that you're going to be overrun. I've talked to Houston Gaines, and he said, well, it's because election officials feel that they'll be overrun on election day. The statistics don't bear that out. The numbers do not bear that out. There was more heavy voting in advance voting for the 3 days that I worked than there was on election day at the library. So my question, why do we do it? What does this board think about it? And what can we do to change it?
Thank you. So public, just so you know, public comment is just your chance to speak to us. I'd be happy to talk to you after the meeting, and I'm sure other board members would as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the next person signed up is Jacqueline Nelson.
Hi, friends. I'm Jacqueline Ellis here, 315 Caldwell Circle. And I want to thank Mr. Kadir. I understand he's At the end of this year, this calendar year will be the conclusion of his 4-year term, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you. You're a conscientious person who's absolutely paid attention and served us well. And I appreciate your help. And I appreciate it. I understand Mr. Shirley has applied for a second term. So I'm hoping that the wisdom of the county commission is to reappoint you, if I'm correct, that you asked to be reappointed. Because everybody knows if the secretary wants to do it again, folks want the secretary to do it again. Am I right? And it has been proven to me, never, ever miss a meeting because you will get volunteered to do something if you are not present, which happened to me in October when I was volunteered to be on the boat, which was a most illuminating experience. And I learned a lot. Not only have I always known how competent and thorough and with integrity you run our elections, but I saw it. And when this limiting on, it seemed like it went on forever. This never ended. But it was really a good experience. Sincerely. So thank you, my friends. I'll continue to be in your company as you have been here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other members of the public? None appearing, so we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is the director's report, which I believe we'll find in our packet.
Good afternoon, board.
Good afternoon.
Athens-Clarke County. The first thing on our agenda for the director's update is the activity report. And Pam is going to provide you the activity report for the month of October and November.
Okay.
Since the November meeting did not take place, the original meeting. And so she's going to give you that update. And for the October activity report and then for the November activity.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, board. So I guess we'll start out with the activity report for October. So as you see, for this month, we had a total of eligible voters of 86,243. 1,797 voters that were added in the month of October. The total cancellations we had were 245, which consists of 17 that moved out of state. And I was able to get the numbers for the people that canceled through Charters portal. So that was 20. Other requested, the people that just like sent in the letter to request to cancel, they sent in a, form through the office, was 21. We had 50 deceased and we had 2 felon removals that time. And then for the month of November, it's the same because I didn't get the numbers for October at that time. So our numbers right now, as we stand as of November, is 86,243. But the cancellations did change. So we had a total of 228, which consists of 14 that moved out of state, 14 that was submitted through the Jarvis portal, 5 that requested, 15 that were deceased, and 180 this time on our felon removal. So that's our activity report for October and November. In this order, we give you absentee and open records.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
The absentee ballots for October, there were 3,390 mailed, and returned there was 2,911. And then for November, there were 16 absentee ballots mailed, and absentee ballots returned was 567. As far as open records requests for the month of October, there were 2. Actually, 4. I'm sorry. 4. And the reason the numbers are different because I sometimes forget to include the ones I sent through the FTPS site. So on here for November, there were 15, and actually it was 4 for October, and it was 20 for November, open records requests. But in your package, you'll have a total of 15.
That's it, and then for us to total of voter IDs that we had for October, we had 23. And we had 32 in November, so as of year to date, we've had 284 voter IDs. And we'll turn it back over to Director Stokely.
All right. The next item is our department's focus, and our focus includes about 3 items. One is the study of the lessons learned from our 2024 election. One of the things that I wanted to point out is staffing was always an issue. Did we have enough people to handle all the process? No. So one of the things that we're going to look at with the 2025, moving on into the 2026 elections, is a format where we can have the ample amount of staff members to handle all the processes. I do want to mention that in 2024, it seems like we were always trying to get caught up. Like, it started with the petition process for the independent candidates. And then, it was then we were bombarded with registrations, where the Secretary of State's office would forward us the applications through a FTP site. And then we would get another stack, just always trying to reach the deadline, meet the deadline. And then we were bombarded in the office with organizations who were also doing voter registrations. And we just wanted to make sure that our registrations were ready and accessible by the start of advanced voting. So a lot of hours put into that. We were bombarded with over 4,000 absentee ballot applications. Over 500 of those, I believe, were UACABA. And we answered over 2,400 phone calls from October 16th through 11/5, 488 phone calls on election day. So what can we do, to make things better? I'm looking back at our strategic plan. Our goal number 4 is really highlighting our succession planning. And the item was recruiting, awarding, and retaining high-performing election professionals. And we want to ensure that our election staff is nimble and flexible through cross-training and succession planning, with an initiative of creating a development plan for career advancement of identified staff as a part of succession planning. And that's one of the items that I'm focusing on for our budget requests this year, is to look at our headcount. That budget will be due by, I believe, January the 5th. And so I just wanted to let you know that. I wanted to also highlight some things that we're very proud of. We had some challenges in the election, but there are many things that we're just super, super proud about. So I'm going to highlight those at this time. The general election was held a little over a month ago, 35 days exactly. I feel like I'm doing Twist the Night before Christmas. It was more than just an eventful day. Early voting began 3 weeks earlier, and we received voters every day until Friday before Election Day. It was exhausting, exhilarating, and historic regarding the Athens-Clarke County voter turnout and hours available for voting. Instead of the same old thank you note that we gave to our poll workers, we wanted to highlight these things, and I wanted to share them with you today. These things were accomplished together by Athens-Clarke County staff, board, poll workers, and Athens-Clarke County community. 1,598 total hours of training was attended by all of our poll workers. 30 county, school, and private facilities provided spaces for voting. 74.5% voter turnout, which exceeded the 2020 general election turnout of 67.52%. There was 180 hours of advanced voting provided across 6 locations for 3 weeks. 36,786 people voted during advanced voting. 3,765 absentee ballots were processed and accepted. 98 poll workers were staffed during the advanced voting at our advanced voting sites. 208 poll workers were staffed election day precincts. 4 poll workers who were under 18 years of age assisted us as a poll worker. We had 46 brand new poll workers. 34 poll workers staff our special teams, which includes absentee balloting, the memory card pickup, the closing of our advanced scanners, ballot duplication, and the risk limiting audit. 2 poll workers and 30 volunteers from our ACC departments delivered and recovered election equipment on 4 different days to 30 different sites. 3 of our locations employed new managers. 1 location was used for the first time on election day. 16 incident reports were filed, but they were all minor. 18 people represented 5 different agencies manned the Emergency Operations Center on election day. 27 emergency radios were deployed, and hallelujah, no emergencies were reported. And all 27 radios were returned. Those things cost $2,400 if we needed to replace one. 23 hours average worked on election day by our full-time department staff, 23 hours average. 14 hours average worked on election day by poll workers. We had 400 plus dirty aprons that were sent to the dry cleaners. 193 meals were provided to poll workers on election day with 8 different options, where in the past we've only offered 3. 100% commitment and dedication to the mission by everyone involved. Election turnout, again, we got to highlight 74.5%. Again, I'm gonna say it exceeded the 2020 general election. We provided meals to election staff on election day to include breakfast, lunch, and dinner orders. Delivered 5 absentee ballots to the hospital on election day to ensure even those who were hospitalized on election day had an opportunity to cast their ballot. As I mentioned earlier, we answered over 2,400 phone calls from the start of advanced voting until the end of election day. 488 of those calls were processed on election day. Poll workers celebrated several first-time voters at our polling locations by ringing bells and yelling, "We got our first-time voters!" We became the only county to offer a voluntary Spanish option ballot on the BMDs, as Gwinnett County is the only county mandated to provide the Spanish option. Election director was featured in a TV documentary, ZDF German TV, which shows how interested Germans are in the US elections. By November 3rd, the documentary reached nearly 2.4 million viewers. The director was featured in the New York magazine, The Cut, discussing pressures facing election workers. The director was also featured in a TV series on voter rights on Roku TV. Additionally, staff participated in another 40+ interview engagements with UGA Journalism, Political Science, and Law Schools, Red and Black, Government Technology Magazine, Blueprints Magazine of Cedar Shoals High School, Grady News, Banner Herald, and other radio channels. And we advertised with purchasing 10 billboards this year, 2 of which were Spanish. And I think Athens-Clarke County election deserves an applause. I want to say, well done, good servants. All right. The next item is the FY26 budget planning. I think we're going to be a little too late, but because new initiatives were due this past Friday. So I do want to mention that in the future, if the board would like to have new initiatives, if y'all could get those to me, maybe around an idea, maybe like mid-year, like June, July, and we can start talking about it and getting all of the data. and seeing how it links to the Athens-Clarke County government strategic plan, linking it also to the department's strategic plan. So going forward, if you want to do that. I will remind you that the funding that was requested in the past FY initiatives in 24 and 25, which included the Spanish translation, that does remain in the budget. So we can go further with this translation. Okay. In the back of your binder section, in this section, there are two documents. One is related to your retreat. I'm hoping today that you can confirm a date that works best for the majority. The dates and the times, decide if you want a 1 day, 1.5 day, or a 2 day retreat. And then rank the locations that are listed as potential locations as how you would like for us to contact them. We would do them in the order that you rank them. Since this list was created, I was also given that the hotel, Indigo Hotel also is a possible location that hosts meetings of this sort. So if you would add that to the list. And then along with this list, or this sheet, is the potential topics that you mentioned earlier this year. I did bring those on there as well, and then a potential facilitator. So these are some things that we like to get today, so we can go ahead and get your retreat planned and on the calendar and on everybody else's calendar as well. And then just behind that sheet, you'll find the draft of the dates for the 2025 meetings that will need to be discussed. I see as an item on your agenda already to be discussed and approved so that we can get this advertised timely. And the only other thing is questions and comments. Yeah.
I have just a couple of questions, and it's basically following, we had spoken about it earlier. I've actually forgotten how it went. Cross-training, I think that's an important thing. Because right now, a lot of your staff is part-time, right?
That's correct.
So, question I have, and I don't know, it's may just not be possible, the assistant manager can we cross-train people with another department? So in other words, during election time, when you are stressed for resources, those people are trained in this, but they are working in some other department and can be brought into. Have you looked into that? I know we briefly touched last time.
Yeah, so we did. We ended up having to do that this election.
Oh, we did do that, okay.
We were able to get some help from some of the other administrative assistants in the county.
And how well trained were they?
It didn't take us very long to train them.
Okay.
And they helped out a lot to help us get some of our, I think it was our auditing process that they helped with.
Okay, so
Yes.
that was, and just a simple follow-up question. All those things you mentioned, so overwhelming. What areas can you specify? Can you give us a list of areas where you really could have used some more help than the others? Not right now, but because it has to be addressed. I mean, I just hate to see this kind of stress happening at election time, and then the rest of the year we are not preparing for it, or we could have prepared better for
Right.
it.
I think most in the administrative side and the registration side of the spectrum of our department, because we needed to get our audits, we needed to get the system updated,
Mhm.
everybody's registrations in on time. Absentee ballots were overwhelming, so we could get some help there. And we're already having discussions about that. And what I'm thinking would be a best practice, and we've already talked about this amongst the staff, is to start recruiting. We always say 6 months, but I think we need to have a rollout of what sections of or what division needs the help the most. So, or the quickest, and do it in a time frame. So we would start recruiting first with voter registration. Helping us get the data entry in. Second would be absentee balloting. And then, of course, then the poll workers who would help with advanced voting and election day. And then any staff that we need after the training has all taken place. If we needed runners, for instance, that were picking up supplies or helping us with the risk limiting audit or election night, then we would do that recruiting later. What we run up against is the process of recruiting and then getting everybody orientated, so to speak, on their onboarding process, which usually takes about 2 weeks. And then, of course, prior to that, there are interviews that we have to do. We interview all of our employees. And then, of course, that orientation portion where the employees go through the background checks, through human resources and everything. So it usually takes about 2 weeks. So it's hard for us. We'll have to start working backwards, I think, so we can accomplish what we need to.
That's why I'm big into the cross-training with other departments, because then you don't have to worry about hiring, recruiting. They're already there, they just have to be trained. You have to work with other department managers and directors to bring them temporarily. Okay.
What else?
I didn't know if this was the best time on the agenda, but I just, in following up with all the numbers that you cited, all the stats, I'm blown away by all that you've all accomplished. And like, we've been spoiled by just how ho-hum you make this seem. Right? I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way, but like much like NASA going to the moon, they made it look pretty boring. So everyone after Apollo 11, people stopped watching because Apollo 12 was, oh, look, they just put a guy on the moon. Who cares? Like, oh, look, y'all just made all this stuff happen out of nowhere and you made it look like it was just fine. And those of us that are lucky enough to be closer to it, we know more than the average person just how that is not simple. But I'm humbled as always to be a small part of such a huge, awesome team. I remember last time we met in November after certifying, I was too tired, like most of us, to think straight. And I failed to thank the attorneys and the manager's office and the EOC, all that went into all that stuff outside of our office to make all that stuff happen. So just thank you so much for taking point on that and making it happen. And I'm so proud to be a part of this.
And I want to also add, there was no court order from the senior judge to hold any precincts open late because we were open on time. I mean, we have to always, note that because it happens, sometimes, a lot of times in small counties. So not just a large.
I just wanted to say, a well-oiled machine never, ever really gets any credit for what's done because you make it look so simple and you do it so smoothly. But I second what Adam said and thank y'all so much.
We're proud of you. Thank you. Oh.
Yeah, I'd like to echo everyone else's comments. And then in your budget process, would you be seeking another full-time employee or are you trying to get more part-time employee? Because I know that we've lost very good and talented part-time employees that would have made excellent full-time employees, but you couldn't hire them. And so I think that's part of the problem when it's easy to fall behind when it's a revolving door of part-time folks and you don't have a solid core of a staff to handle some of those things. And then you were presented with a lot of unknown things that even the best intentions of planning would derail your schedule and your timeline, such as the recall petitions that happened, that took your staff offline for a long time to do that work that's required by the law. You can't stop doing this to do that, to do both. But now you have less people doing both, so. And then, although there weren't too many, but new rules causes a whole new way of training and learning and stopping what you're doing to learn this thing. It also slows down, so. Great job. A lot of factors that were out of your control.
Charlotte, do I recall that you've been looking at like some best practices? I think you talked to me about some staffing ratios that are recommended. And then you've been looking at some other structures. Do you remember what that ratio was, like X amount of staff per registered voter?
Yes, so the EAC, the Elections Assistant Commission has put a recommendation and best practice. And this also comes from other election or professional organizations that the ratio is 1 to 10,000 voters. And we currently have 1 to 14,400 voters. So in my presentation, my budget presentation, I will include that information as well as share other counties who are considered as mid-sized counties and counties that are like us as a unified government to show where they are as far as that ratio is concerned. And that's going to be part of my campaign to gain at least 2 full-time employees.
Let the board know what type of support you need. Because each one of us calling the commissioners and saying, hey, keep this in the budget, please. You know, that's something we can do. My personal suggestion for an FTE employee would be someone focused on communications and public relations and messaging and those things that would fall under that. I know that larger counties have that, obviously, so can't really compare, but I think that would really help us with engagement, constant engagement with media and things like that, because the PIO covers the whole county. It would be nice for you to have one person that's kind of focused on that and social media and all the stuff that comes with that. And then another thing that's often always puzzled me while we're on this topic is these three's title of assistant, they are like deputies. I mean, they do the work. They step in and fill your shoes anytime. I don't know if HR has ever looked at their title. I would like to see the three of them have a more elevated title than assistant. And that's just me personally speaking.
If I could share maybe some of my perspective. So I've had the privilege and terror of coming into a deeper dive with elections, big presidential election. But Rocky, you and I are maybe seeing things from a similar light. So I think right now, and this is no knock on current staff, because I know they've been advocating otherwise, but we look like we have an elections department that's built for 1990s elections, right? And the game has changed dramatically as far as legal activity and public records review and even something as simple as IDs. So to speak to each topic separately, I represent 10 departments. I've spoken with each of them about their budget needs, and I'll be quite frank, our budget's going to be tough. Getting elections some support is at the top of my list for 10 departments. So even in a tough budget, that's something I would like to highlight the need for. When it comes to the elections assistance, I agree. I think the intensity of the work and the pressure is not quite reflected in the title or the pay. And so the best place for us to focus on that is in the pay study, where we're looking more comparatively at other jurisdictions. And so that is something that Athens-Clarke County is in the very early phases of. And then if we don't get answers that make sense there, that's where my role is to look at alternatives. But I do want each staff member to know, like, y'all are deeply appreciated. I think that's been echoed by the board tonight.
Ask a quick question to the manager.
Yeah, I have one more comment. And then I do know that some of the larger counties have counsel within the BOE office. I know we have a unique situation and the budget probably isn't going to allow for an attorney to be on staff in the elections office, but just another piece of thinking.
You had mentioned that, we could use a little different organization. Are there any counties in Georgia that you're looking at that has made the changes and are staying with today, or are you looking outside the state?
Well, so I am not doing a comparative analysis. That's where I've asked Charlotte and her team to look at it. My kind of layman's review of areas that would benefit from additional resources. Taraki, you talked about kind of that outreach and education, maybe being in one function over time. I also just see some like administrative capacity. There's so much activity that moves at once. To put that on the shoulders of 1, 2, or 3 people is just, it leaves room for A, burnout, and B, things slip through the cracks, just like they do in my world. And then I see maybe even like an operational specialist too, to kind of help. So I know that that's vague. I'm interested to see what we learn from other communities and from these best practices, but there's a number of places where I could see a benefit from additional resources. And it'll be a matter of like, what's the top need? And then we just kind of peck away at these over time, because I don't see us having the budget where we add 2, 3 or more positions in a single strike. But I think our community is very supportive. Our elected officials have well-executed, transparent, and fair elections. And I don't see that changing regardless of who changes behind the rail, if you will.
And one last question, kind of going back on cross-training. Do you have many other departments that require part-time workers?
Yes.
You have that.
Leisure services is probably the second biggest one because they run so many seasonal camp programs.
Okay.
So they bring in a heavy load of it. I'd say across elections and maybe across the entire organization, I'm sorry, not across elections, across my departments, but probably across the entire organization. Elections has the most predictably unpredictable work, right? No doubt, there's 35 steps to any one action. But one year, it's a presidential election, and then a senatorial runoff, and then a special election, and then another year, it may be much quieter. And so I think that's where at times leadership may struggle, but we need to build an elections office built for resiliency and to be able to adapt to these conditions. So a combination of full-time staff and then anything that we might be able to do to improve around the part-time staff that we use and supplement, certainly up for discussion.
Great. All right, let's move on. All right, next item on the agenda is old business. It appears as though we have no old business to conduct, so we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is new business, and the first item is dates, times, and locations for the 2025 board meeting. As mentioned in the director's report, there's a proposed schedule. Do any board members have any outstanding comments or concerns? Or anything?
Just running through my calendar, I'm sure staff has done 12 times, but.
Yeah, I don't see any birthdays or anniversaries there. I think we're good.
You're right before sweet baby Jesus.
It's Charlotte.
December 24th.
And it's yours.
Happy early birthday.
I don't know.
It says December 9th.
I'm curious to know why November 4th, November 7th? What, I thought there's an election, I guess?
Yes.
I thought it was in June, but okay.
Yeah, there is one in June, June 17th.
Okay.
And so that one's listed, and then the certification meeting for the 20th.
Where's June
I'm sorry.
17th?
I don't see June 17th, but like as far as the regular meeting schedule,
I think we got two different versions here.
I have a schedule that says 2025 meetings. It goes down July 8th, September 9th, October 14th, and then November 4th and November 7th. Is that what you're just showing? so far? Is that, I have other stuff on top of that, but I'm jumping down to November.
Yes, July, August 5th, September 9th, October 14th, November 4th, November 7th, and December 9th.
I'm totally fine with those dates. I'm just curious, what November election are we expecting in 2025?
It will be the Public Service Commission statewide. So there's gonna be, they're gonna have a primary in June. And then they're gonna have the general in November. And we will also have the municipality of the city of Winterville.
Gotcha.
They will have their election
I see.
In June or?
in November. But I do expect to have a special election along with the Public Service Commission that will be held concurrent. And that would be to fill a vacant seat with the city of Winterville that they didn't get in time for the November elections.
And so then would the idea then be that we're scheduling right now our November regular meeting for election day instead of November the 4th, then November the 11th, which would have been the second Tuesday. And then we're putting on the calendar November the 7th for certification. Is that the idea with the these
Yes,
dates?
November 4th, notice, yes.
I'm 100% on board now. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, if Congressman Collins works with the administration, will we have a special election for his seat? That will come up when, January, February?
Wait,
No, yes.
Doug Collins or Mike Collins?
Well, Doug Collins is not
Right.
elected.
Yeah,
Did Mike Collins get named to something, you know?
well, might be the Secretary of
Past January,
Veteran Affairs,
it will be
right?
past January the 20th for sure.
Yeah, that's right. It'll
Think
be
that-
after that.
So on that note, could we have a list of any potential election, whether we expect there to be one or not? Whether it
Yes.
would be a runoff or a special or
Yes.
a special or whatever.
Yes,
Any
yes.
possible, because we can right now go through and name any possible dates that we may or may not participate in.
So, yes, but off the top of my head, March, I think it's one. June, of course, because that's called by the legislature. That one is called by the legislature. And then, the runoff, if there's a runoff, and then November. But I'll double check and make sure there aren't any, and it'd be in the code section.
Could you just send that to us sometime?
Yeah, I think it's 21-2540. Like, that'd be special election.
And because the homestead exemption constitution or the passed, there is an opportunity for communities to also have a local option sales tax vote. I haven't heard anything. I'm just saying that that's
Right.
on next year's calendar.
Right, that's why it would be nice
And I
to
think that's,
pencil in for the year.
Sure.
and I usually have a special election calendar by now, but I just haven't had a chance to.
You were busy with other things. Something happened in November.
Yeah.
Okay. The floor is open for a motion to accept this calendar.
I so move.
Second.
Motion, Ms. Fambro, second, Ms. Till. All those in favor of adopting this calendar as presented, say aye. Okay. Hearing no opposition, that passes. Next item on the agenda is the proposed change to board bylaws. We need to,
You keep.
okay. All right, Mr. Kadir, your name is next to this, so I recognize you.
Yeah, I mean, there's something y'all might want to consider, because I won't be here, but I was reading the bylaws and it talked about calling in a meeting, emergency meeting. And I was thinking, the chair should be able to call one by him or herself. And if the chair is absent, maybe it should take two, or I think 3 people to, because if you have just 2 people calling for it, they could gang up and be calling a special meeting every month. So maybe if the chair is absent, 3 other members should be able to call a meeting without the chair. But I don't think the chair should have to be, you're working with the attorney's office or the director, and you need to call a special meeting, you shouldn't have to be calling around other board members for approval. I think that's one reason someone is elected, someone is appointed to chair. So that's my view. That's all I wanted to mention. It stuck out to me.
Before your term is up, would you send us some proposed language you're thinking
I'd be
about?
happy to.
Because I know we can't.
Yeah.
Our bylaws now, we can't do anything right now.
Right.
Anyway. And I think we should wait to do anything until the, two expired seats are filled. But
I actually have a question, but it's kind of related, but not totally related to that. Is there a mandate that we have 5 members? Or could we have more members, like 7?
It is,
It's in the-
it's in the local act.
Okay.
questions, comments?
If, I just, if we wanted to, we could proceed. I mean, you're right, the amendment section of our bylaws does clearly say that there must be 10 days of notice, written notice. We can always, if I'm not mistaken, vote to suspend the rules to allow an exception to that if we wanted to, but we don't have to. I just figured that with the 5 of us, 1 or 2 new people in January will need time to get up to speed, and out of the gate, they might not. I certainly wouldn't have been ready my first meeting or 2 to say, let's talk about the bylaws. So
The timeline I'm thinking in my head is if he can suggest a draft, then we can present it to the new board members in January and either have a special club meeting, nobody probably wants to do, vote in February on it.
Okay.
It doesn't seem
Good
that
idea.
critical of
Yeah.
a thing that needs immediate action. Anyway, does it seem like an acceptable timeline? Okay, we go. Other comments on that? Next item on the agenda are announcements. Mr. Secretary, would you do us the honors?
happily, January 14, 2025 at 4:30 PM will be our January regular, meeting.
Where will it be?
120 West 30th Street.
What time?
Sorry, getting word that
Be aware that planning has not been given any of these dates for 2025 yet, so I have to confirm that they're actually gonna have the room available, but if not, you can always hold it.
so to be determined,
4:30.
but at 4:30
Which you already said.
somewhere.
No, just being. Any other additional announcements? Questions, comments, jokes?
Yes, so I would like to, acknowledge, the board member who is gonna be leaving. If I could, Chairman Rappel, and if
Yes,
I
ma'am.
might, I would like to play something.
Oh, please do. Are you gonna get up and dance now?
Charles loves dancing.
We are going live right now.
So we were at a conference.
I'm gonna have a video of this on my phone.
He says, wait a minute, I gotta go tell the DJ to play something by 50 Cent. That's part to go. 20 minutes later, the DJ played something by 50 Cent, and all you could see was his head jumping up and down.
See, that's why we cannot play the 50 Cent right now.
Google the clean version.
There is a clean version.
Very unexpected, Mr.
I will always remember you from that.
Well, at least this is the way to remember me. But if I may just have a moment to say that, to have an opportunity to work with staff, the attorneys and the board members like the one I have at this level, as part of the democracy, I just wish a lot more people would participate in it, but that's okay. It's just something that's going to stay with me forever. Hopefully, I can pass it on to other people in different ways and get them to participate in our civic process one way or the other. I feel so strongly. I've been involved in something or the other since 1998, pretty much. I just interviewed for the Board of Tax Assessor. that was the main reason I decided to apply. Well, two reasons. One, I really feel we need some younger blood in here, with all due respects to the folks there. And secondly, taxes and finance is a little more of my area. And because I have also been serving on the Board of Equalization, it was just a natural step to apply for that. And hopefully I did well today. Let's see how it works out. I'm up against a banker, so he's very well qualified. He deals with mortgages and assessments and so on. But that was a primary reason to want to leave this board. How can you leave and not take everything with you forever? You can just imagine that. So all I can say is thank you for everything, the privilege of being part of your group for 4 years. It's been wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Have 15 more days to complete yours.
I've got
A special called meeting on
yes,
New Year's Eve for
I
you.
like that.
Yeah.
Oh, and I have something, but I can't share it during this meeting. But I have a couple of photos from conferences. I would sit together in the back.
Hey?
I didn't bring my dark sunglasses in, but you know what I mean.
I like the memory I'm leaving behind.
So Hank and I had a fun time.
Love it.
Yes. Things that happen at the conference.
Yeah, for a while I said, let me apply in case I do get reappointed, that I can resign after February, after the next conference. And yes, didn't.
Get an extra nap in.
There we go. Oh, that I'm going to be doing.
Okay. All right, I think we need to come back to this retreat date selection thing. Anyone have an ideal date for February?
It's not on February the 9th.
What's happening then?
That's my birthday.
Oh, the only full weekdays I'm available in February would be the 17th and 18th. Not that we have to do a full day.
Choice is 1 day or 1.5 days.
Yeah,
Right.
the 17th and the 18th works for me. Okay. But so we need to answer the next question and then come back to the 17th and 18th. I think a day and a half. Others?
I can see either working well. Of course, a day and a half gets more at the retreat, but the retreat, right, more of the spirit of vacating and retreating together.
Still?
That sounds good.
Okay,
I agree.
all right. So let's do 17, 18.
Okay.
So that part is out of the way.
Do you want to do the half day on the 17th and the full day on the 18th, or the full day on the 17th?
I'd rather be done by 1 or 2 noon,
On the 18th?
I feel the same.
I guess, if these dates are not available, Saturday, I guess, and do a 1 day on a Saturday.
I would hesitate after that. That would be possible for me.
I mean, there's a whole,
Well,
surely one of these
That's a holiday.
7 of
That's
these.
President's Day.
It's President's Day, so it's almost like a claim you on your Saturday. I don't know.
That's true. That'd be a holiday weekend picking up.
And you're off.
Andrew's signing that holiday
I'm off that day.
paycheck.
That's it. That's the only days I'm getting off of month, so.
We don't get President's Day.
Oh, wow.
All right, so let's just hope for that. We can come back to the drawing board if that doesn't work.
The 17th, 18th.
Okay.
All these locations are fine with me. Just, I
Is there a
think,
particular one order that you want us to go in, maybe?
well, I think Skidaway and Sapelo are probably a little too far.
Okay,
And I guess Isle of Hope to.
It's gonna be cold in Namakalola and Unicoi. It's gonna be cold,
Yeah.
cold.
In February,
Beautiful, but
you don't
cold.
wanna be, you don't wanna be near the
I mean,
water in
it'd be
February.
cold here, but
I don't.
up there,
What do we do locally?
Make it snowed in.
It's not gonna be there. It won't die.
no, like, I can deal with the cold, but like, we're talking like ice, like it might be snow, ice. So,
Yes,
they-
so I agree. That's fine. So like the Georgia Center. The Rock Eagle is, oh, it's an hour away.
Yeah, just an hour.
Yeah, I agree, those
Well,
first.
why don't we just look at dates? And then I think we should decide from there.
I'll just make a comment that if you hold it in town, then you are able to invite someone. Maybe someone from the commission, maybe someone from another department. If it's far away, it's difficult for a guest to travel to come there.
That's a very good
Just
point.
keep that in mind.
Yep.
Very good.
I don't know that I'm ready to answer the bottom two questions at this moment, but I think the most important part is the date, so.
Okay.
The two options are probably Indigo and Georgia Center.
Those would be mine, or botanical gardens, that kind of stuff, right here
Yeah.
locally.
Yeah,
Also,
that's what I said, botanical and Indigo.
Mhm.
And Winder, what is that state park? There's a conference center.
Yargo?
Fort Yargo has a conference center. Somewhat local. Let's add that. So,
Okay, that sounds good.
yeah, and I think it's pretty sure it's new. Let me think about the bottom two and I'll send an email.
Okay.
Is there, will that be okay? Do we need to get a sooner jump on the facilitator process? Because if we
I think so.
reconvene in January, we'd need to, that'd be a tight turnaround for them.
I think so.
Yeah.
Our old favorite Joe does a great job.
He is, Miss Joe and Mary do a great job.
Joseph.
Joseph.
Otherwise, I think Mr. Kadir will be available.
Yeah, we got it. Consultant.
Well, there you go.
I am
You're
working,
gonna have to go through the bidding process.
There you
first.
go. I'm okay.
I am working on trying to get, if there's a way for us to find out how many voters selected the Spanish ballot. I am working on that.
Awesome.
So hopefully I'll have that soon. And I'll get that to y'all through email and be able to share it at the next meeting so that it's part of so that we're transparent with that.
You know, I'll be watching that meeting.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is to adjourn.
I so moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.